Hey there, Blockhead Traders. Here at Blockhead Traders, I must inform you that we are not financial professionals. Nothing we say should be considered financial advice. We offer our own thoughts and opinions to you, the viewer. We expect you to take these opinions from your own financial conclusions and make your own financial decisions. This is Blockhead Traders for the week of March 8th, 2026. And in this week's episode, it is a special episode. It is the 260th episode in a row every week. And that is a grand total of 5 years of weekly episodes. And this is going to mark the end of the weekly episodes from Blockhead Traders. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where I started this video cast, where we went, what I thought about it, and where I'm going next. Because 5 years seems like a good milestone to change it up a little bit to see what might happen next. But before we hop to that, I want to give a shout out to our Discord, a link in the description below. You can hop in there, say hello to myself, Viper, some of the other Blockhead traders. Love to hear what you're trading, love to hear what type of content you want to hear about. Also, you'll find a link to thetagang.com/sprocket888, where I post each and every one of my equity trades, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Last, this is available in an audio-only format wherever you get your podcasts. So look us up, subscribe, and if you can't find it there, let us know and we will get it there. But let's hop to this week's content. 260 episodes, 5 years in. It actually was not, I never really had a target of how long I would end up recording these. In fact, I didn't even think I would keep them up weekly. And it wasn't really until I had kind of done it for the first year that I would kind of started to recognize, wow, I really locked into that weekly cadence and the discipline of kind of making sure that I had a video out there and ready to go. There were some weeks where, I was going to be away, maybe vacations, travel, things like that. And I actually would pre-record videos. I originally thought I would have a much larger backlog of libraries to kind of just slowly leak them out there and publish them. But it ended up turning out to be a lot harder than it sounded to keep a backlog of things. And so it kind of transitioned into a weekly recording, get it ready for publish, and then publish at the beginning of that week. And once I kind of got through that first year of that, I thought, wow, let's keep this discipline up and let's keep going. And I really locked into that for many more years to come. And maybe around the end of 2025, I started getting a little bit, I don't know, discouraged is the right word, but I think it's a lot of the goals that I originally had when I started recording this, I really had achieved a lot of them. And so there was this big question of, well, what's the purpose of kind of carrying that on to keep going? And I kind of thought about it, and there was reasons I wanted to kind of keep going, but I also wanted to kind of scale it back. And I kind of thought to myself, well, you know what? I'm really close to 260, and 260 is 5 years in, and closing it out on that weekly cadence 5 years after the start of this recording journey seemed like a logical place to do it. And so I've been recording and been releasing weekly, and this week is really when it all is going to change as far as the timing and cadence goes. Now, let me take a look at some of those original goals that I mentioned. So I said towards the end of 2025, I started kind of really struggling with a little bit mentally to say, hey, what's the value add? What's the purpose? What am I kind of doing this for? And when I started this video cast and this podcast, I actually didn't originally release this in an audio-only format. We added that later after we got some feedback from users and viewers where they really wanted to listen to this content in an audio format while they drive, while they exercise, put it on double speed, things like that. And so we actually went back and re-released all of the episodes that we had made in an audio format, just basically taking the recordings from the videos and posting them. But where all of this started for me was in 2019, which was still several years before I actually started recording. And that's when I really started looking at the world of trading and saying, I want to figure out how to do this to make an extra income stream. I really didn't dabble in any aspect of trading up to that point. I had a few different brokerage accounts. I tried a few different things, but I never really committed to it. And so in 2019, I really decided I want to try to figure this out. I want to try to learn it. And I scoured for the better part of the year on all the different type of content I could get my hands on for free. Most of it ended up being on YouTube. If you go way, way back in our catalog, I really documented a lot of this initial stuff before I started hitting the records. And there's some episodes reflecting back on that. I started getting into premium selling, option selling. It started going well for me. And I reached a point where I wanted to continue learning, but I also wanted to learn in the open. So this all started in 2019 as I was building that foundational for retirement. I wanted to figure out, can I make another income stream such that when I retire from my job, many years from that point, I would have a sustainable income stream that wasn't dependent upon me working for somebody else. And as I went through that journey of learning and starting building those foundational blocks, I realized that there was at the time a lack of realistic content to learn things. And so I said, well, you know what? I'm kind of into technology. I'm kind of into video editing a little bit. So let me just mess around with this and let me learn in the open. And so that's when I kind of started this particular video cast, this podcast, with basically just openly sharing each week. What did I do last week? What am I doing next week? What have I learned? There was episodes where I would zero in on a particular topic. I would come up with mini series over the years because all of it was building my foundational knowledge. And I was really hopeful that I would create an inspiration to other people. Yeah, maybe not in droves and droves going viral or anything like that, but I said, if I'm out there trying to learn this, surely somebody else is. And one of the big discouraging things for me was everything seemed so unattainable. There was no average Joe that I would see on YouTube and understand how did they do it, right? Everybody loved to showcase the glitz and the glamour of the home runs that they hit or this monster game that they had. And there was really no confirmation whether or not that really happened or didn't happen. And a lot of the videos seemed to skip out on the practical and tactical things that they did day in and day out. And so this was really almost like a vlog kind of covering my daily activities, weekly activities. And the idea here is that it also is kind of keeping me accountable to it as well, because I am verbalizing this stuff and publishing it on the internet. So it's really kind of fun to go back and look at some of the opinions I had many years ago or the thoughts that I had, because it really is a grand live experiment that we put on over time. And when I say I really feel like I've kind of reached a lot of that, I personally feel that I have a lot of knowledge and a lot of background and a lot of experience at this point on how to build this as a secondary income stream for my retirement. I have built up my portfolio, made it a second income stream for my day-to-day living today. I can see how that will continue into retirement. And so I've just kind of diverted that income stream back into itself to keep growing that wealth nest egg. So that someday when I retire, that will be one of the foundational pieces of this income stream. And so I really feel I've achieved a point through multiple market ups and downs, different market styles, market segments, bear markets, bull markets, flash crashes, all these things. I've traded through all of them. I've picked up a lot of experience there. I've picked up a lot of knowing. Do I know everything? No, absolutely not. There's a lot more to learn, but I really feel like I am no longer that driver with a temporary permit. I feel like I've had my license. I've gone through a lot of driving conditions, and I feel very confident to be able to navigate the markets from a trading perspective. And as far as learning in the open, I will constantly be learning, and you'll see in my next steps, I'm not wholly ending everything. I'm just really, really scaling back on the frequency, because one of the things of inspiring others, learning in the open, that I found over the 5 years is I don't think a lot of people really are that interested in the content. I have a few dedicated users that are viewers that kind of tune into this every week. But that number is probably less than a dozen. And Could be the way that I deliver the content, could be the type of content I cover. I don't know, but I've also talked with people outside of this weekly video cast. And I just think there's a lot of barriers out there, and barriers mentally for people to kind of engage in this type of activity, to start building wealth, doing that second income stream. And I really don't care whether they come along or not. And that was always the premise of this show, of this recording, was I'm going to do this for the things that I'm learning, the things that I'm doing. I'm going to share it. If people find it interesting, cool, come join along the way by. But I never entered this to really become a YouTube superstar, so to say. It'd be cool if that happened, but it didn't. And so there's quite a bit of time that I put in each week to the preparing of the content, going through the content, recording the content, editing the content, publishing the content. And it's really reached a point where I don't get as much out of it anymore, because I've built a lot of those foundational concepts. I've built a lot of my trading strategies and a lot of my approaches, and I don't really feel the need to record this as much and put it out there in the open, because I don't know how much value other people get out of it. So really all these things together said, you know what, it's probably time to close this chapter on these weekly releases of Blockhead Traders. Now, where does that leave me? Does that mean I'm going to pack up shop and quit and disappear off the face of the planet? Well, not entirely. So I really still feel like there is a lot of value that I did get out of certain aspects of setting up this recording and doing this recording, and things I actually liked, I enjoyed. I actually enjoyed kind of preparing content for the recording. I enjoyed making the recording. I enjoyed editing the recording. I just don't really enjoy it to do it every single week. And so I'm not getting rid of my channel. Blockhead Traders is going to be around. Blockhead Traders is still going to release content. I just don't think they're going to release weekly, probably anytime in the near future. Probably will scale back to monthly or quarterly, or maybe just topic based. When I come across something very interesting, or I talk to somebody and they come up with a mini series thing, I might put some more time and energy into doing that. I would love to get more involved in the editing process of special effects and graphics and stuff like that. So if you look at all my videos, largely they're PowerPoint slides and a few video transitions, nothing super fancy or super nice. And I really feel like a lot of the videos that pick up more, gravitate for more people to watch, have more flashier things and visual appeal. I'd love to learn that, not to get more people to look at it, but also just because I like to mess with that type of technology, and I feel like I'd learn that a little bit more. But I want to learn that not at the pace of a weekly release. And so I do think there still will be Blockhead Trader videos that come out. They will be dialed back as the frequency. They could be really focused in on, hey, this is how my retirement portfolio is doing this quarter. Check in next quarter for another update. Or, hey, here is how my brokerage portfolio is doing this month. Check in next month for an update. Kind of along those lines, one of the other aspects that I want to try to practice more is actually writing. So I do a pretty decent job, I think, of speaking and talking through a concept, but I think writing is something that I want to improve on myself. And so the best way that I find to improve is to get into a routine and practice it again and again and again, build the repetition. And so I would love to focus more on written content. I've done very few blog postings on the website. If you go to the website, blockheadtraders.com, you'll find some of my written stuff. And I actually really kind of enjoyed making that. You can kind of refine it. You can make it more succinct. You can spend a lot more time kind of compressing it to really bring the point across in a more efficient manner. Well, I don't know, efficiency can be debated, but that's something I would like to focus on. So I would kind of expect myself to start releasing more of that kind of written content. Maybe that's something that people will digest a little bit better than the video content. I don't know. I don't think it's quite as easy to put up on an audio podcast, so you can kind of listen into it while you commute, while you exercise, stuff like that. But who knows? I also still plan to stay just as active as I am in the Discord. That actually has been one of the most positive takeaways from this. is the Discord community that we've built up. It's small, it's not very big, but it's really cool because the people that we have in there are really interested in trading, really interested in the markets, and it's just nice to be able to have like-minded people to bounce ideas off of, bounce off discussions, joke around with. And so I definitely will keep that up, and invite all of you guys to come out there and check it out. And lastly, I think there's a lot of, not a lot, but there are a few tools that I've created for my own trading, spreadsheets, methodologies, stuff like that. And I think that goes in line with this written content that I like to focus on, is kind of refine that a little bit more to something that I can publish for others to consume from the website. I still really feel passionate about making sure that there is no barrier, very low barrier to entry for things. So I don't want to create a website with a big paywall that says, hey, pay me money to do this, because the point is my strategies are my secondary passive income stream. I don't need to go out there to try to sell this content. I don't feel that desire, right? I feel that wealth building is something that everybody should have the knowledge and the power to engage in. Now, it requires you to have drive and motivation to carry through with it, but I don't feel like it's my place to put additional barriers to entry or friction there. So that's just a philosophy that I want to hold true, no matter what I'm doing on my channel, on my site, in sharing education. I want to make sure that education is always accessible to people, so that they can better themselves, better their lives, better their future plans. And that really brings us to the end of this final weekly episode, 5 years later, with 260 episodes, one released every week for 5 years. It certainly was a lot to learn for myself. I think actually one of the strongest things that I had developed over those 5 years was just the habit of making the recording, the habit of going through the process of preparing the material, thinking about what I want to cover, thinking about how I want to verbalize that and share that, because each of those things every single week really helped me to actually cement and learn and understand the content that I was talking about. When I was in high school, I actually had a teacher that would tell us, hey, it was a history teacher, and he had told us, you know what, you can use one sheet of paper. You can put whatever you want on one sheet of paper, and you can bring that to your test, and I don't care what you put on that piece of paper, but as long as it's 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, whatever content you can fit on there, you're welcome to have it on your desk when you take that history test. And me being, I guess, the opportunistic capitalist at the time, would spend hours sitting down, pouring through the history topics, writing down in itty bitty font on these notebook paper, 8.5 by 11. That was one of the things that did have to be handwritten as part of it. And I guess it had to originally be handwritten because I was able to make copies of it. But what I did was I made this sheet, I made copies of this sheet, and I sold this sheet to other people in the class. So I said, look, guys, here's my sheet. And everyone's like, hey, I didn't actually start out wanting to sell it, but people saw my sheet and they're like, hey, can I buy it? I'll give you money for that. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. And so, another test, I started selling this sheet. And it was like $1. I think I charged $1 for everybody to have it. And everybody gave me $1. And I thought I was going to get in trouble one day because the teacher had called me up. He's like, Jeremy, I want to talk to you after class. So I went up there and I thought I was going to be in trouble for passing out the sheet. He goes, that's pretty smart what you did there. Good on you. And I bring this story up because what was interesting is when I took the test, I never needed the sheet. Basically, the actual act of creating the sheet had things so ingrained in my brain that I didn't actually need it when I took the test. And ironically, all these people that ended up buying the sheet from me, they didn't know what information was on that sheet. They didn't know where that information was. And they spent most of that time kind of hunting through that piece of paper to try to find the answer or find the thing that was going to give them a clue. And they didn't often finish the test. I finished the test and rarely used the sheet, which is kind of ironic since I made the sheet. But I really think that the habits that I went through in recording this video was very similar to putting all of that study material onto a sheet. It really helped it cement it. It really helped me understand it. And that's the type of thing that you have to go through. There's no easy button for you to just show up and watch a video and then replicate what they do and then boom, great, you understand it. It takes drive, it takes motivation, it takes dedication. And these are all things that I hope other people will start picking up on, but it's not something that I think I can pass along, and it's not something I can bring further value to it. So I'm very grateful for what I have learned through this process and what I have been able to accomplish myself. And that's really where I came to that conclusion of, yeah, I fulfilled a lot of the goals that I had when I embarked on creating this channel, creating this weekly recording, and really just publishing it out there. So I'm sure at some point there will be more content that will be released on here. What that is, what frequency that is, I'm not sure. But until then, good luck, have fun, and remember, think outside the block.